Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining today. My name is Scott LaFortune, Digital Marketing Manager at SystemSoft Technologies. We're excited to be live today and hope you enjoy. Look forward to what we believe will be an insightful and engaging episode, Modern Supply Chain Digitization with iPaaS Integrations. On behalf of SystemSoft Technologies and Dell Boomi, thank you for taking the time today to join the live event. As a reminder, you can submit questions at any time by posting them in the comments section. Now I'd like to introduce today's experts. We have SystemSoft Technologies Integration Practice Lead, Som Hiremath. We also have special guest, Barry Gerdsen, Chief Technology Officer, ISV, OEM Partnerships at Dell Boomi. We're excited to have Barry and Som share their experiences working on and leading a diverse range of client integration projects and processes. Now let's hand it over to Som and Barry.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. So good morning, Barry. So nice to meet you now. So it's basically, today's topic about how supply chain management function in various industries, in retail, life science, pharmaceutical, transportation, and logistics industries, how they face, various challenges in the supply chain management. And with that, I'm going to put it on Barry to explore a little bit of, provide some expansion on the challenges that face today's industry. Yeah.
Thanks, Som. I appreciate that. So at a high level, there is less certainty about the economic environment right now than there has been in quite some time. Supply chains have been bent, they've been stretched. In some cases, they've been broken as a result of the pandemic. And businesses are now investigating ways to go about making them more resilient. The bad news about that is that with that resiliency comes some additional complexity and costs. Now, I'm going to state up front that what you're tuned into is not a financial seminar, but I do want to use a couple of recently released financial numbers to drive home a point here. The first number that I'll introduce you to is the Producer Price Index, and this represents wholesale prices, that is, the prices that producers pay, which increased 0.7% in August, which resulted in final demand prices increasing 8.3%. That happens to be the biggest increase on record in more than a decade, literally since 2010. Now, why this is important is because the CPI, which represents the prices that consumers pay, only increased 5.3%. So if you're a business, this means that your costs went up at a rate that far exceeded the ability to offset those costs. So now more than ever, if you're a business, you need to be able to track what drives the costs of your product and to be able to have the tools necessary to be able to analyze these costs because there's less room than ever to be wrong. And the elements that affect your supply chain can eat into your corporate earnings based on your ability to be able to subsequently price. So what I'm going to do is, Som, let's dig into a little bit about the supply chain itself. What are some of the pain points that you're seeing?
Yeah, I think some of the, based on our experiences, there are so many different functions of supply chain, right? So it's probably how purchasing function, manufacturing function, inventory management, demand planning, warehousing, transportation, and customer services. It's not necessarily in those order, but there are various industries apply these various functions in a different ways, right? So as a whole, in the organization network of stakeholders, right? Suppliers, production, manufacturing, packaging, distribution, and customers. So with all these, right? If you take an example of one tiny function called order to cash life cycle. So some of the challenges that order to cash function face here is that optimization of order to cash life cycle itself. So it's basically the quicker a company can transform their raw good into a saleable product will be received and billed by customer, the less cash will be tied up on various stages of inventory, so which will provide more resources needed to further invest in its growth. So it's basically it actually increases the competitive advantage in the market. So basically within the whole order to cash process, there are like 4 to 5 steps involved in order is received, picked and packed, shipped and tracked, right? An invoice sent, payment received, and the receipt processed. So within this whole function, if you take just tiny function, so there is a question on how will you sell products and manage orders within a small, single platform, which will be transparently understood by all participants in this ecosystem, right? And the second question is how will you fulfill orders from different distribution channels and models and avoid the customer confusion. And the third question challenges we face is, how will you ensure that cash is collected in a timely manner so that the financial reporting is accurate? So these are various different challenges they face. And one of the important function is during the raw material forecasting and procurement of process, right? And how do we automate those processes? So with that, so do you have any insights to share in terms of automation perspective, how we can automate these challenges and make sure we overcome that?
I do. So mitigating supply chain risks starts with the availability of information and the ability to be able to analyze that information in order to be able to make good decisions. Especially on the procurement side, companies need analytics to be able to enable procurement agents to negotiate with suppliers and procure materials cost effectively. So having real-time data handy from multiple sources are going to help agents to be able to make good decisions about how much to purchase and how much to pay for what they buy. Where I've seen this done well is by organizations that rely upon combinations of internal and external data that help them make intelligent decisions around reducing the cost of raw materials. Usually at a minimum, this kind of data allows you to determine demand forecasts, to be able to track historical order summaries, to be able to compare supplier quotations, to be able to track the price trends of commodities that go into making a product. That's really important, especially given what I was mentioning before. These are all the things that a buyer should consider on the procurement side. Now, an iPaaS solution allows you to pull information like this from multiple sources and to be able to aggregate it for the purposes of reporting and analytics. Most importantly, it allows you to do so in a quick and flexible way so that you can easily adjust your sources and the ways that you analyze this kind of information. So let me pause there for a moment and ask, Som, what's been your experience using iPaaS tools to help customers to resolve their supply chain issues?
Yeah, I think so. Before we jump into iPaaS solutioning, iPaaS, how automation will help in terms of using the iPaaS tools for solving these issues. So some of the measurable goals. If I take the same example of order to cash we discussed previously, right? So what is that very simple tiny function they try to achieve here? Reduce the process cost per order, right? Reduce the number of delays sales outstanding, and then increase the customer satisfaction. So in order to achieve this small automation between various participants, let's say the manufacturing goods are being being produced on time, right? And the inventory has maintained very well in terms of storing, in terms of fulfilling orders, in terms of the replenishments of orders coming in from the various customers. So how suppliers will make sure that that's being profited, right? That's also important. So how this automation is taking place here. So we need to do like the three things that every organization look for. Pick the right integration platform. So and also make sure that the various functions having a various issues like sales, operations, of IT have their own different vision. So how they are all come together and make sure that there are three things they have to take a shared responsibility here. So basically, they have to take the shared responsibility in the shared vision and also provide the 360-degree customer experience. So in this case, the iPaaS platform not only solve the, in terms of connecting these various participants and automation of these processes, people and devices flow through between, between these. This is one of the beauty of the platform, and it has various components. It will cater to be it device connectivity, be it people connectivity, and make sure that various formats are being exchanged. It doesn't matter. So it's basically it takes care of handling all information exchange, all information flow is reached out to each of the participants of supply chain during this order to cash process seamlessly and then transparently. So I think that's the beauty of these iPaaS platforms. So with that, I just wanted to explore a little bit more from your end. So what's your experiences, specifically taking some of the examples like, procurement side of it, and how the analytics, how can we get an insight into this movement of all this information flow and within one area, right? One dashboard. So can you just share insights if you have any experience in terms of, analytics side of it?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So the to really ascertain the value of iPaaS as it relates to forecasting is to take a look at it, what would happen without it. Without iPaaS, it becomes very difficult to accurately forecast. You need a centralized way to be able to analyze data. And without iPaaS, it becomes very hard to aggregate data and to derive reasonable forecasts from multiple sources. So for example, let's say that I was seeking to leverage commodities price forecasts from some existing external service like Refinitiv or Bloomberg or Focus Economics. I would need to have the ability to easily read in this data and then to quickly bend, shape, or aggregate it in the right way. If I don't have that ability, it becomes a challenge to forecast costs. An iPaaS solution is ideal in this situation because it allows me access to all the informational sources that I need to make timely predictions regarding supplier capacity, raw materials prices, and lead times to delivery. This can help me limit volatility and risk, and it can provide me with baseline estimates needed to negotiate costs with suppliers. So in the bottom line here is that it's going to help me save money. But beyond even me, the visibility of this data being transmitted across all supply chain participants also plays a key role. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that, Som.
Yeah, I think there are three fundamental, information. We have to see the three fundamental, major problems when we look into supply chain ecosystem, right? So one is the information, the foundation of the global supply chain visibility. That's information is very important. So in here, the data collected from multiple links in the supply chain. This starts from loading data from, core internal systems of the company, all the way from various legacy system, purchasing and logistics, and how these movement of all this information, two or more components it fly through, like suppliers, third-party logistics, manufacturers, TSA, inbound carriers. So it's various partners there involved. So that's information is a commodity here. It's a very important aspect of it. So that information insight is not available for the leaders of the company. Or they're looking at this data and try to make a decision and predict some of the raw materials, predict some forecastings, predict the costing. It's not easy to make a decision without knowing upfront that what the data is being transmitted between all these suppliers, right? And the second point is process, establishing the workflow and automation. So it's basically, so once the business has automated and the exchange of business information up and down the supply chain, so in order to leverage that, right, properly, so we must establish the best practices for workflows and processes internally and externally, by collaborating the various partners, right? And the third thing is the people. So business rules and intuitive dashboards. So here, so the rules and the dashboards, so all the way from going from B2B integration to B2B collaboration requires automation and like order fulfillment, carrier integrations, and integrated purchase ordering. And it's not about robots taking over the workforce. It's about, how we intelligently automate all these, information flowing between various participants and various systems to reach out to the people on time, and then highly visible. And so it's basically the fundamental thing here is that recently, so World Economic Forum said that, the transparency, so high visibility are the key factor for success of the, key success factor for the supply chain management during the pandemic. So basically 4 reasons why this integration, iPaaS platform integration is important solutioning here. So complexity, better customer experience, and then the reduced risks, cost effectiveness, competitiveness. So basically these are the 4 different types of areas. So this particular iPaaS solutions, it's not just only provide the dashboard insights. It also makes sure that the segmentation of the transmission of shipment of goods and statuses are tracked and reported back to the dashboard, in a real time. And also it also mitigate risks in terms of something that business owner wishes upon, right? So if they want to see how trucks are moving, how fast they're reaching, or the customers are delivered. So those are the things that questions that this supply chain visibility will be able to solve that issue. So with that, basically, I just want to go to the one of the important component of supply chain is inventory management. So how important, Barry, here to reducing the cost of inventory, and how is that going to help integrity and credibility for customers?
Yeah, it's a good question. As much as possible, companies seek to manage inventory and distribution in real time. And you mentioned that a moment ago, or something as close to real time as possible. What this means is purchasing at the point when there is demand and capacity. So on the iPaaS side, we hold the responsibility of enabling the identification of any supply chain gaps. And we do that through the availability of timely information from relevant sources. Done right, we can link cost savings to the contributions of suppliers and pinpoint their impact on revenue. So in this way, we're facilitating supplier collaboration with all the stakeholders in the supply chain. Ideally, the goal is to provide customers with the information they need to be able to connect budget with real-time spend decisions. We want to enable them with forecast data to be able to easily adjust and be able to pivot their levels of spend according to economic conditions and changing economic conditions. We'd like to enable them to validate cost cuts when the situation calls for it. Now, as an example of this, at Boomi, we had one such customer. I'll cite Kelly Moore, which is a well-known paint manufacturing company based out of California. We helped Kelly Moore streamline the process of importing orders from dealers to their point of service database and to provide connectors that allowed their stores to generate purchase orders for automatic real-time ingestion into their vendors' fulfillment systems. Now, this is just one example of how iPaaS can be used to shore up a fragmented supply chain. But in your experience, Som, how have you seen connected supply chains benefit customers?
Yeah, I think it's a seamless connectivity between this supply chain. So what is a connected business here, right? So it's basically, it's no secret today, right? The global supply chain is more complex than ever, right? It has become, so it's a digital ecosystem of suppliers, logistics companies, customers, other value chain partners that stretch across the globe, right? So basically, what does this mean? It means of connecting everyone involved in supply chain, drawing together disparate systems and partner networks to ensure that, the information information can flow end to end, whichever the, across the supply chain. So whenever, whichever is the way it's needed, right? And truly, the connected end-to-end supply chain has the aim to reach 100% visibility in real time. So it's basically, so the goals of the supply chain here, of this connected business supply chain, is a supply chain visibility. I think we talked about a little bit in the previous, topic we talked about, and then how, all connecting all trading partners together and enabling secure, effective flow of information, right? And the second is demand-driven supply chain. So in order for, customer experience, 360-degree experience to be fulfilled, so we have to make sure that we have to fluctuate the information flow. We have to fluctuate the solutions. We have to fluctuate the, centrality in business processes based on the customer demand. And it has to adopt, as and when the customer demand goes high or it goes low. So it's basically on-demand business, right? So if there is if connected supply chain doesn't provide a treasure trove of information for real-time operations, it delivers the data needed to fully understand what customers want, right? So it's basically, the third point I would like to emphasize is supply chain optimization. So this supply chain optimization is continuous improvement and optimization of the, so the manufacturer can improve efficiency, increase business agility, and reduce cost. So there are so many ways we can do this. So in order to do this, the solutions like iPaaS platforms like Boomi, right? It has a 360-degree components in terms of providing not only optimization to these customers, because these iPaaS solutions make sure that, every participants in this ecosystem, connected through these iPaaS integrations, through the APIs, through the schedule processes, through the B2BI trading partner integrations, and in real time, on various frequency based on various formats, it can exchange data and send data and receive data, on time, right? So basically, there are three priorities that we have to see here, right? So all the different supply chain industry, supply chain, those who have a supply chain in terms of trucking, rail, air, ocean, logistics, retailer, manufacturer, right? So they're all participating in the shared platforms. So they're all participating in the cyber standards with their partners. They're all participating in the cloud solutions. So those are the top three capabilities that, connected community today, they're sharing the information already. So it's all about, connecting those all shared information, making sure they reach on time, right? So unite all fragmented ecosystems. and collaborate the operation models and correlate and then keep innovating what they have it today and keep improvising it. I think that's more very important. So the iPaaS solutions not only address that B2B platform, it is very essential for the supply chain industries to make sure they set up all the rules, protocols, exchange of information formats, and do the business and connect them seamlessly so that it provides profitability on time, and also it should also address all the customer demand within the time frame. So with that, I just would like to ask you a very important question to you, that you're in your experience. So how these all applications, partners, devices, and IT systems, whatnot, right? How they're all enabled, and what is the importance of the digital transformation here to drive this cost efficiency? Barry, so it's over to you. Yeah.
Yeah, sure, Sam. Let's answer that by way of example. So a customer we at Boomi had worked with was Corkscale. Corkscale is a Florida-based company, makes insulated drinkware coolers, very trendy company, very fast-growing. I think everybody's using their products now. But to achieve it, they required fast, accurate order management and distribution across a network of applications and partners. And what they were struggling with was problematic integrations between NetSuite and separate sales order entry applications. They were also struggling with third-party logistic distribution partners. And they've been relying upon a mix of outdated integration tools that were costly. They were cumbersome, they were unreliable, and this was undermining their business with higher costs, delays, and they were also getting dissatisfied customers. So using Boomi, Corkscale was able to connect NetSuite with their sales entry order tools, specifically Brandwise and Aileron, basically ensuring that their customers were accurately routed into NetSuite. Then Boomi exchanged order and fulfillment information between NetSuite and 3PL warehouses in Georgia, Texas, and China. So what this enabled Corkscale to do was to improve the accuracy and speed of order and distribution processes. It accelerated their integration development by 3 times the speed of custom coding, and it future-proofed the business, basically giving them the flexibility and the confidence that they would be able to handle future such integrations. So, Sam, in your experience, how have you seen API-led integrations drive the supply chain?
So that's very good question, Barry. So before that, I think we have some questions from the audience here. So one of the question, can you provide iPaaS integrations and analytics solutions together? How can we exchange data externally with business partners, right? So would you like to take that question?
I'm sorry, say that one question one more time?
Yeah, can you provide iPaaS integration and analytics solutions together? How can we exchange data externally with business partners?
Yeah. So we absolutely can. We have the ability to be able to integrate. The nice thing about an iPaaS solution is it allows you to be able to integrate with anything that offers a way in, basically an open API. So we have the ability to be able to combine analytic sources, to be able to, pull information, to be able to do complete round trips into an analytic engine. And then we can also exchange data externally with business partners by way of API.
Awesome. I think so. Fundamentally, there's a you're just going in the same. We're taking that example, right? So iPaaS API integrations. You're asking questions on API-led integrations. So there is different ways of frameworks we can define in terms of how we can solve the customer pain points in supply chain industry, right? You can create product assets of APIs for order management solutions, and then reuse those solutions in a various layers. Like it could be experience layer, it could be mediation layer, it could be core layer. So the beauty of API-led integrations in the digitization of supply chain industry is basically it provides the core info between the IT delivery and the business. So there is a lot of exchange of business need and change in business, right? So in that case, these API assets, they will not, so underlying all the API assets remains the same, while the experience layer will keep changing based on the customer requirement. So that way, so every LOB can come in and define their API solutions and then just enable those solutions. And the experience layer is ever-changing need. It can address ever-changing need. So that way, so what happens is the reusable assets, we keep building these assets, can stay for very long time as as part of the company, program, given that, they are ready to go for the whole, the productization of APIs, right? For each of those solutions. So I think that way, the digitization, digital transformation using the API-led integrations is one of the solution that we can enable in terms of how we can order management process, whether it is the inbound, invoicing, or we have to make, the outbound invoicing, or just to fulfill receipt of payments. So all that can go through with the various productization of these APIs. So I think with that, I would like to hand it back to the Scott. So Scott, I think so. It's great having you here, Barry. Before leaving, just Scott,
Thank you so much.
back to you.
We actually have one more question for you guys. It's that can each of the stages in the order to cash process be automated using intelligent automation, document processing, and RPA? As an example, say divide and conquer approach, and use the time gained with said automations be used by personnel for actual supply, demand, and pricing analysis.
Got it. I think this question is, we have a cross-functional team specifically working for intelligent automation and document processing as part of the robotics process automation. But so as part of this, there is a possibility that in terms of how we can divide and conquer and make sure that these automations between personal actual supply chain demand and pricing, yes, it is possible in terms of even if you enable iPaaS solutions. So RPA basically sits on top of iPaaS solutions. So it actually reads all the robotics event logs, and then it actually push that data into the RPAs, and RPAs, iPaaS, as well as the intelligent automation, all three work together as a one tool. Okay, so as a one solution. So in this case, with respect to just more information on intelligent automation and document processing, I will definitely, if we get the contact in the contact retails, so Scott, we can send more information on that front.
Awesome. Thank you, Som. Thank you so much, for joining us today. The great insights on modernizing your supply chain and how these solutions can create more secure, streamlined, and better connected businesses. We look forward to having you guys on again, and stay tuned for future events on the same channel.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.